Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and today I'm doing a discussion over Septima, the newest game by Mind Clash Games. And by newest, I mean it's been a few years, I think, since this officially came out. And it's so funny because when the year it came out, this game broke into my top 100, and I, for some reason, just never did an official review on it, even though I've played it many, many times. And this is like a weird anomaly of a game, because every time I've played it, I've always had the exact same feeling of just apathy. Like I feel almost nothing playing this game. And that's not to say I think this game is bad. I think it's a very clean game, and I like this theme. It's just I don't know why this game doesn't do it for me. It does a lot of things really well, but it could just be that at the end of the day, nothing in it is necessarily all that exciting, but it still feels like it's busy. It feels like there's a lot to do, but at the same time, nothing to do. And it's also not that this game overstays its welcome. By the time the game is done, you're like, that feels like an appropriate amount of time. The actions that you do on your turn are very simple and straightforward, with a little bit of planning. But it could just be that you're doing the same thing in a slightly different order, and there's not really anything to pull you away from, move, gather resources, go to a spot, and heal patients. And a little bit in between that, sending people to the court to potentially win in a trial to get a witch. And it's kind of rinse repeat. Do that for 4 seasons and then add up your score. There's enough stuff to give you, victory points throughout the game, but then you have this book of divinations, which are kind of like end-game objectives. And this is a cool system where you have 4 options of increasing victory point value, but it's harder to get. But depending on how many witches are in your coven or how many you get to fulfill. So if you have a full coven, then you get to do all of them. But some you might abandon to pursue others. And the game's not overly punishing, even though you have these witch hunters coming after you. There's enough ways to avoid them, either through a teleport potion or through moving out of their zone, not even raising suspicion so they don't even come after you in the first place. But for some reason, and it's not even that I find this game boring. Like, I'm not sitting here just kind of going, when is the game over? I play it, and then I get my score, and then I'm like, well, blah of a experience, even though the game does everything, especially with it being a Mind Clash game where you expect it to be very rules heavy. It's not. This game is so clean. It does a lot of stuff to even guide you. There's an action track that you're supposed to, you move a token down to be like, okay, we're in the phase to pick a card. Now we're in the phase of resolving that card. Oh, did anyone's suspicions go up? Now we're in the phase to have the hunters move. Did no hunters move because even though suspicion was raised? Now we're in that phase. Now we're in the cleanup phase. It walks you through, and even though you have 9 action cards, and it does this system I like in a lot of other games where you kind of will pick out of your 9, you're going to pick 5 cards to do each turn. And they even have an element of, hey, if you played the same action card as someone else, you get a bonus. They do that kind of in Rising Sun, for example, with negotiation of, hey, do we want to ally? Now we'll get double bonuses or double actions. Here, it encourages you to talk with other players and be like, hey, does anyone want to do the chant action with me? And we meet up as fellow witches and chant, so we just get a bonus for that. Or if we match, it's going to raise our suspicion, but we're still rewarded for doing that. And then you pick 5 of those, and at the end of the season, those will come back. And also, the witches have individual powers, and you can have 4 of those, and those could combo really well. None of the abilities are inherently bad. They're not broken, but like, for example, there's a witch that for every mushroom you collect during a collect action, you lower your suspicion by 1. And another one where when you're brewing potions, you can raise suspicion to lower the cost of brewing the potions. So they're useful abilities. And yet I still feel like I feel nothing while playing this game. Even when you play the full game, there's this ritual track that for matching actions with other players, you could potentially go up, and that allows you to gain access to these spells. And there are 3 tracks to go up that pertain to a different, a variety of options of spell cards. And the spell cards are really good. Some of them can be like, hey, if you win a trial, you don't have to recall 2 loyal citizens. So they get to stay there and be able to give you access to various picks, which could help you in the next season. Some of them can just outright move a hunter to another location. Some of them are scoring, which could be victory points. And yet I don't understand why I feel like this one I have no desire to play this again. I was looking to actually sell this game, but I was like, well, let me try it one more time, and I felt the exact same. I'm like, maybe it was the people I was playing with. All those other times, maybe I wasn't in the right headspace for a game like this, and nope. Every time I have played this game, it is just, all right. That was Septima. And the production quality is phenomenal, at least for this deluxe edition. Like the coins, or the wisdom tokens are really thick and nice. The wooden tokens are very nice and double printed, I believe. Yeah, they're double printed. The board is great quality. The storage solution is awesome. Where the potions are on this cauldron looking thing. Because in other games, like the remedy track or the healing track, when you go around to various locations to heal people, there's either 3 conditions. It's either blindness, paralysis, or infection. And depending on which one you heal, you go up on a track and you get rewards. The green track lets you send people to the court. The paralysis gives you resources, and the blindness it messes with like the ritual track, either going up on it or gaining access to spells. And that's cool, like gaining stuff for doing stuff. Like you're always gaining something, and there's always a forward momentum when you're playing. You never really feel like resources are tight. The way the lunar resources work is interesting. You just have 5 tokens. They're shuffled and set at the beginning of the game, and depending on how the moon cycle works, essentially throughout the 5 turns, when you do the collect action, those are the resources you're most likely to get. So you find areas on the map where it's like, oh, right now, mushroom and berry are the lunar tracks, and there's a spot right here that if you did a collect, you would get 2 berries and 2 mushrooms. And if you match with someone, you get a non-lunar ingredient, which could be the crow skull, or it could be, whatever. And then you could also get gems, which are wilds. So it's very easy to get resources if you are willing to either spend a flying potion or, travel. And even travel is not restrictive. Like every turn before you do a card, you can do a quick move, and that allows you to just kind of not have to spend one turn to, your one card to move. And even then, there's a card called Remember that lets you redo a card that's in your action space. And if you're trying to match with someone, you don't have to rely on other people. There's a neutral player, it's the Septima, and she has tokens that come out. And if you match with her, then you get the reward as well. So you don't even have to try and convince other people to do an action that they don't want to do. You can just be like, oh, the Septima is wanting to brew. Cool. I'll also brew and get the reward for that. And everything about that is good. I really don't have... My only minor complaint is the randomness of the trials. But even then, I can put a thematic spin on it that if you have a bunch of loyal citizens, but everyone's suspicion is high. So right now, if like your suspicion is 5, you're adding 4 angry citizens for just you to the bag. If you're playing a 4-player game and everyone's at 5, you're adding 20 angry citizens to the bag to go against everyone else's. So not only are you competing with other covens, you're competing against angry citizens, but there's more to go around. So you have to the loyal citizens have to outwin the angry citizens. And that could be completely random. If you're really wanting a specific witch that happens to be on trial, but all the meeples that come out are angry, then, well, it actually, even if it's a majority, it doesn't matter because you can't tie with them. So if it just happens that the majority are angry, they're going to get removed from the game, exiled, go into a farm upstate. And yeah, that might suck. But even though it's negative, because it's like, man, I put all my loyal citizens in on that, and I didn't get the witch that I wanted. Well, even my counter on that is, well, you don't really lose anything. You still have all your people there. You're actually kind of set back if you win. You do get the witch, and you get some victory points for it, but 2 of your people have to come back. But you're able to get crowd picks. If you have all your people there, you can get 4 crowd picks. But it also makes thematic sense. Hey, everyone's suspicion is pretty high, and the masses are not really going to listen to a lot of people. Just the mass hysteria that was the witch trials makes thematic sense. So the randomness is not frustrating. I just don't know. I would love for someone to be like, oh, maybe this is why you don't really care for it. It does nothing for me. I think maybe it's just because even though it has all this stuff that works in other games, I don't necessarily feel like any of the choices are interesting. I don't think that the spells are interesting. I don't really think that the witch powers in your coven are interesting. I don't think that the card abilities, even the extra match bonus, I don't find it all interesting. It's all very flat, all very surface level. So even the tracks are okay. Yeah, I get 2 resources. The potions are useful, not the ones that heal. Obviously, that's useful, but like the practical potions of being able to fly or do a love potion or stuff, they're there and they're useful, but they're not exciting. This game, I think, would have been enhanced by witches having like broken powers. Right now, they're all beneficial and they enhance actions, but none of them are broken. I think this game could have been really cool is if it was like almost, because it's not like practical magic where we learned home remedies that are like legitimate ailments or legitimate cures for ailments. It's like if actual magic was here, and it alludes to that, and it almost kind of, yeah, the spells are there, but they're not really. They have titles on them, but the titles don't really kind of like exude spellcraft. But yeah, I almost wish that the witches were almost like of a Voyages of Marco Polo, where the player powers are so busted, but if all of them are busted, none of them are busted, but they're not really that. But I will say what goes for this game is if you're looking at Mind Clash and you're thinking of Tricarion or Anachrony, 2 way heavier games but work way better for me, or Perseverance, which is another one, their episodic dinosaur game. All 3 of those are a lot more complex. And here, if you were to dip your toes into Mind Clash games, I think Septima is a really solid one to do, because it's going to give you a similar feeling to how their games are, but in a much more gateway sense. Not that this game is gateway by any means, but everything is very clear on how you are meant to play. And they even have 2 versions. The basic game, where you don't mess with the spells or rituals at all, that's pretty much it. That's the only thing that's not really in the game. You just have your base game of the trials stuff. And then when you've played it a little bit more, you can throw in the spells and the witches. But even then, I don't even really like the ritual track. I think it draws too much attention away for very little payoff, I think. Like, you're kind of looking at where you're at, and you're like, oh, if I want to advance without playing the ritual card, I need to match with someone on movement and chanting. But I don't really want to do either of those right now, so I guess I just won't go up on the ritual track. And since you only get to play 5 actions, you don't really want to spend your one card to do the ritual just to make some improvement. So I actually think the ritual track kind of muddies up the experience of what is a really still clean game for a lot of people. If you were dabbling in some worker placement games, or you've been in worker placement games that are traditionally recommended for beginners, you're like, well, I think I'm ready for something a little bit more complex, but not too, like, if someone was like, hey, I've played some worker placement games, I've been looking at Septima or Anachrony, which one should I get? It's like, oh, play Septima. If theme is not a question, I'd probably recommend Septima for like that next level, that next step. And then Anachrony after that, if you ended up really liking the way that Mind Clash does their thing. But yeah, just maybe that's really what it is I don't find anything here particularly exciting. You don't really combo anything. Yeah, you can do an action and then the spells will kind of pop off because of the action you're doing, but it doesn't really do anything all that fun. Yeah, and I've even tried to set the tone, finding music and stuff that will fit this, and it just doesn't do it. But, and I know that it's not the theme because there's weirdly been a lot of witch-themed coven games that have come out, especially in the past few years. We have this one. We have, I want to say, it's not Witchbound. It is Witch something. It was the solo-only game that came out by the same company that also did. I am totally drawing a blank. It is wow. There was a solo-only witch game that came out. I'm gonna see it because I still have that in my collection. There was Evenfall. What's it called, Evenfall? Yeah, Evenfall. That was about witches and covens. Also a worker placement game. Yeah, it was Evenfall. And I think Witchbound is another game slated to come out this year. Yeah, that is a solo. Okay, so there's 2 solo-only games. There's Witchbound, which is about explore magical island, become the first witch in over a century. That's a little bit different than the one I'm thinking of by the same guys that did it was like a solo game about the Spanish Revolution, I think. But yeah, for some reason I'm drawing a blank on that. So this theme is really kind of popping off in a lot of games lately, and I think the theme does a really good job here. I don't think it's necessarily thematic, but I think that everything that you're doing with the cards and stuff is tied to this theme. And the artwork is fantastic. I actually really think that this is a awesome style that I haven't seen a whole lot anymore. The player aids are really good. Everyone gets their own. You barely have to dive into the rulebook. The player aids do a lot of that. I mean, everything I'm saying about it makes me think this is like a 9 out of 10, but it's not for me, which is kind of a shame because I really want to like this game and I've given it many chances. It just doesn't do much for me. Now I know it has an expansion, the Omens and Shapeshifters, which I was going to play before I did this review, but I just couldn't dive into this again. I just didn't want to go through the rigmarole just by adding in kind of a modular expansion. But there is that. It's like the I think the omens, I looked at it a little bit. I think the omens have like a positive and a negative event tied to it, and then the shape shifting allows you to morph into different animals. And depending on which color you are, you have different animals that you can be, and those have special abilities as well. And it has a solo mode, which I didn't try. So, I don't know. This one's a weird one, because it's not like I'm sitting here shitting on the game. I don't know. Like, that's my thoughts on Septima. On a scale of 1 to 10, like, I think it's a me issue for this one. So I'm gonna give it a 7. I do think the game is good, but I can't give it an 8. But I could see why people would really like this. I very much appreciate the storage solution. I appreciate the production quality, the streamlinedness of the rules. But 7 is where I'm kind of at. And I consider it a 6, but that feels just insulting. Even though on my scale a 6 is above average, or slightly above average, and 7 is like a good game. This is a good game for me. Would I go out of my way to play it willingly? If I saw like 3 people and they were really wanting a 4th, I probably wouldn't like, I gotta play Septima. But if someone was like, oh, well, we really want to try with 3, we've only played it at 2, I could be convinced to hop in. Wouldn't necessarily have a great time, but I wouldn't have a bad time either. And that's it. That's my thoughts on Septima. Let me know what you think of the game in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.